Hey, welcome to another podcast. It's an absolute privilege. Today we've got Kelvin in. Listen, he's been in the game for years, so if there's something that he don't know about this industry or the tattooing process or the journey to become a professional tattoo artist, then believe me, it just really ain't worth knowing. So I've been after getting him on for quite some time. We've been talking back and forth and we've finally got him in, and I cannot wait for you guys to hear background and see some of his work and get them crucial professional tips that we're all wanting. So welcome to the podcast, Kelvin.
Thank you very much, Ben.
Are you comfortable?
Yeah, nervous and could you make me comfy? I don't know.
So he's been in the industry for years. He's a fossil at industry. He should be a pensioner by now, but he's still working.
You got me some slippers or something?
No, but just to make you a bit more comfortable,
Oh, you got to be joking.
we've got you a little blanket. We'll get you tucked in. I'd give you some slippers as well, but mine are too bad.
Do you know what? That's quite comfortable.
So, main thing for me is, where did it all start for you? Obviously, you've been in game absolutely years, probably longer than you want to admit. But is it something that you always wanted to do from being a kid? Were you always artistic?
Yeah, started off very beginning, I suppose. Encouragement from my parents for drawing, painting, as a kid. Very early memories of my father, really, having tattoos on the old needle and cotton jobby. At a younger age, me and lads messing about with, I don't suggest to do this, but messing about with, can I take that off his skin? He's messing about with needle and cotton and Indian ink and giving each other dots and what have you, so that was about
5 dice, hadn't he? Compass and Indian ink.
Well, I actually got a dot on my thumb. And I'm walking around school, giving it large like. But yeah, so it started from there, there were an interest.
That on floor, mate. You're all right.
There were an interest from start in that kind of seeing the old generation, like my parents, my uncles, all with old school tattoos.
So you're talking about years ago, though. So back then, obviously it's changed quite a bit now, but era that you're talking about, tattoos will have still been really frowned upon, I would imagine. A lot less acceptable than what they are now.
Oh, definitely, yeah. You're walking around with postal spots and stuff like that, I suppose. I never had one, so I never had that. I couldn't tell you any feedback on it, you know what I mean? Right up until going through school, went to art college, taught in 2 styles of painting, which is velatura and sfumato. Always drawing, so from a very young age, probably 15, 16, they say you're professional when you really start selling and stuff like that. That's when you become professional. So on a drawing level, I was always doing that. And it's funny really, because while you're at school and stuff, you're always getting that ego check. Oh, it's a great drawing, it's a great drawing, it's a great drawing. But when I left school and I went to college, it kind of slowed down. Felt a little bit of depression setting in. Some local lads tattooing, always getting talked about. So you could say I got into industry through jealousy, really. These lads who probably not skill set drawing wise or whatever.
Well, that because they were getting the recognition for their art.
Yeah, they were getting recognition.
Decent money.
And back then it was like standard flash. It'd gone from like a traditional route to standard flash, which were Cherry Creek, official tattoo brand, them sorts of things. People are still doing bulldogs, Tasmanian devils.
I know some lads, my old receptionist that used to work for me, probably about your age, to be fair.
Yeah. What's that fossil age?
Yeah, fucking dinosaur. But he said that back then you'd go into a tattoo shop and sometimes artists would just say, I'm just doing dragons today. And they'd pretty much just say, that's all I'm doing, so I either want that or fuck off.
Yeah.
And that you just pretty much walked in and you got what you would give. I think that were in Cass.
All right.
Artists in Castleford. Yeah. But yeah, how times change.
There were local artists in Doncaster called Jimmy Plaskett, very well known in Doncaster. He was only a tattoos back then, way before I started. You pop your head through the door and It's not like today, everyone's like booking system. You'd sit and wait your turn, you know.
Yeah, like...
I mean, there's horror stories like you're booking for an eagle and he does you a swallow and says, come back when you got enough money. Do you know what I mean? So, I won't like to be the person sat there having that done. But, yeah, I really got into industry through jealousy, really. I knew somebody who sold me a bit of equipment, started off, and straight away, them ego. See, there is ego in a lot of things, I suppose, especially trade that's classed as a secret society sort of thing back then, do you know what I mean? Nobody told you where to get your equipment, nobody told you this or that. It was really having to, you know,
like do it on your own unless
you've got
an apprenticeship.
Yeah, and then people tend to excel, or did excel, were probably people with a bit of background and a bit of front, really, you know, and having friends that are prepared and trust them. Because I had a lad who said, there's 6'2" canvas here, crack on. And he was telling me how to tattoo, so.
So the learning process though, did you have an apprenticeship in a shop? Did you just learn yourself? What were your like learning phase? How did that look?
Well, my 6'2" mate of canvas, he probably had one from a shop, maybe two. He really won me canvas for a week. Then moved on to my cousin. So you could say kitchen warrior, really.
So just 100% pure self-taught. Obviously, back then, there's no YouTube, there's no online stuff.
No, you've got nothing. No.
It's either learn yourself or...
I did have a fallback of people who were still in industry. Probably not best to name them because, you know, selling equipment to you, so I'll keep that one quiet. But if I'm ever struggling with anything or all that, they give me pointers. And I actually ended up working in their shop after a week. So
you were tattooing just from home for a week and then straight into somebody that you knew?
I was doing portraits after a week.
So that, once you'd moved into somebody's shop, were you instantly just classed as an artist? Or were you still looked upon as a bit of an apprenticeship?
Yeah, apprenticeship stroke junior, I suppose.
So how long were you in that first shop?
First shop, probably 3 to 6 weeks. They'd moved on. Then I'm grinning here, but you know, it happens, and they're still friends of mine. I ended up working at Skegness, at Ingermells.
Holiday tattoos?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, it benefited me rather than it benefited my clientele.
Well, so I say to a lot of my students that do it, I say, when you first start, you're wanting just them really simple flash stuff that's super basic to do.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
For at least 6 months to a year.
Yeah. Just
to get used to skin, how different locations at body reacts, different ages, different skin types. It's not the ability to actually tattoo that's the hard bit. Mm-hmm. Once you can tattoo and you've learned all the skills, it's then transitioning that onto an actual human being, isn't it?
And transition being a key word.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was trying to transition my art background into my tattooing. And that didn't come really later till I started doing like colour realism and stuff like that, which we'll probably, if you want to talk about it, we'll get to it.
Yeah, well, we've got some of your, I think that's one of your specialities, isn't it? Colour realism, yeah. So I can't wait to show some examples of that. And
is that what you're doing?
You explain
yeah.
How you'd be going about it. So starting as a professional, you had them first few weeks, and then how did it look at Seaside for you?
It was crackers, absolutely crackers. You're doing 20 to 30 people in a day. Now, I'd say in any job you have a mental span where, before it starts to drift. You know, mine were probably about an hour, 2 hours, an hour elsewhere in my head and...
Fucking daydreaming.
Yeah, I dread to think what I was tattooing. To be brutally honest, I dread to think what I was putting on them, you know. And then, because you're doing that many people, and the consistent, you know, loading of your machine and stuff like that, we were making his own needles, so the fundamentals of understanding what needles do, what inks work better with.
So I've
what
never
needles.
made a needle, mate.
Have you not? No.
Never made a needle. Obviously, modern day tattoo artist.
Yeah.
I used to have a mess about with coils, and I'd strip them down. I'd
Yeah.
rebuild them, and they never fucking ran the same.
Yeah.
Ever. So I just put a stop to that. Like even if up until maybe 8 years ago, even if I bought a coil machine and it just stopped running the same, I'd just send it off.
Right. Yeah.
Get it all retuned. It'd come back. I would never mess with anything. You're like the old school tattoo artist. You'll be able to strip a machine down with your fucking eyes shut, rebuild it all, change all tension of everything and all springs, and understand that like back of your hand.
Yeah.
I just send it off and fucking have somebody like you do it.
And I probably send it to somebody who's better at machines than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is when they sell you as a manufacturer, you know, when it comes from manufacturer.
Yeah, it's what they do day in, day out.
Day out, especially if it's not like they're using somebody's name whose machines were fantastic, and they're now building that machine for that person. Really, it should be the person who's.
I also look at it like you get F1 drivers.
Yeah.
They don't pull up into cockpit and then get out and change their own wheels. It's the mechanic that does that. So to me, a machine builder or tuner, that is their speciality. So as a tattoo artist, I don't need to mess about with machines. If it works and it's running perfect, I know that I'll be able to create tattoo. Yeah. So that's the like modern way of looking at it, I suppose. But you will have had to learn all that.
Yeah, definitely.
And the time that it must have took to solder all them needles together, and I'd have been reluctant on fucking using them after I'd made them.
I couldn't even imagine opening a 1,000 pack of needles anymore. They spill on the floor, on your carpet, and all you can do is just stare and think, I'm going to find these needles.
Process of that though, obviously, if you're making every single needle and you say you were doing on average 20, obviously smaller tattoos a day. What did you do after work? Then spend hours making needles for the next day?
Straight after you're at it again.
Just do it in a batch?
Every day. So you're spending 6 to 8 hours a day tattooing, and you're going back to your caravan and you're building. You're tuning your machines.
See, that's dedication, isn't it?
Yeah, you're taking out all the carbon on your contact points and stuff like that. So off your contact screw, where your clip cord will go into, you're taking all the carbon, all the build-up. Off your front spring, you know, they've got to be tucked down so they're working correctly. You know, we've got blue sparks flying everywhere and stuff like that.
So modern day artist, unless you've been doing it as long as you haven't, never really seen or had to do that. We don't understand how easy we've got it. We just fucking take one out, bob next one in, all pre-sterilised, everything's done. From your aspect, is that a good thing, or do you think, fucking hell, all these new up and coming artists, they've got it so easy? Does it piss you off in slightest?
No, I'm not a person who, you know, talking about ego. I left the ego 4 days ago. No, I'm just kidding. I left the ego, that type of egotistical thinking that, you know, these have got it easy now, they don't know what we went through. It's almost like grown-ups saying that they went through an harder time than we have.
Yeah.
How do we know? We've not been there, do you know what I mean? If they haven't been there, then they would never know.
It's what, like any industry as well, isn't it? Technology advances, things just become easier.
It's great to see, but you know, if you've got an artist who's building a machine and his forte is realism, let's say, you tend to build the machine to fit that criteria. So if you're a novice or anything like that, they might be buying a machine that's not exactly for them. So then you see them going out and buying another machine and another machine. You know, if you're going to sell a machine to somebody, it's tell them what it can and can't do. You know.
I think that's, with coils especially, they have a purpose.
Yeah.
Depending on what springs are in.
Yeah, your wraps are different.
Yeah. So I can remember, like I had, I can't remember the name of the machine now. I had one that probably went up to maybe a 7-liner.
Okay, yeah.
Anything above that, it was.
Yeah.
It just wasn't strong enough to push it in. Then I had one for small mags, one for a Kev Shercliffe machine for bigger mags.
Okay, good.
I used to really like their machine.
Fantastic artists as well, like.
But I had a tray full of different machines, depending on what tattoo I was doing for each needle.
Yeah.
Whereas now I've got my one machine, plug a needle in, don't matter what needle it is, I use the same machine for everything. So in that aspect, but I still, even now when I'm doing line work, the machine that I use, I don't know whether it's just the weight, because they're a lot lighter, but I prefer the coil with a nice, big, thick, heavy grip, so it's front end heavy, and I never use it because I can't be arsed getting everything out and setting it all up and sending it off to be retuned, but that was my favourite ever machine. I think that was a Kev Shercliffe liner, to be fair.
It could have a lot to do with the weight of the machine, because people do base... It's a crazy question. Have you ever fired a gun? And
Ex-military.
Ex-military. Right. You know that recoil? Whether it being on a very minuscule scale or not, there's elasticity in your body. So the tighter you pull your skin, there's going to be more of a recoil.
Yeah.
So with a weighted machine, rather than... I mean, obviously, you've tattooed. You ever felt that need to push a little bit more? Or lean into it a bit more? That's because you're getting more recoil. If you've got a weighted machine...
I just find with lighter machines, you can feel the vibration more.
As soon as it's like... And you feel that,
Whereas the heavier machines, even though theoretically they're vibrating a lot more, they just feel a lot more sturdy in your hand. Your hand's obviously doing the exact same thing.
Recoil, then it's just the weight of the machine, you can relax. The more you grip a machine, it's going to tighten your tendons up in your arm. So the rotation is automatically taking out your range of motion.
So after Skeggy, obviously you've been round Doncaster, that's where you currently are.
Yep.
But after talking to you, obviously, before getting you on, you've fucking been everywhere, and you've been there and seen it all, really, haven't you?
I have, mate. I'm scared of flying to different countries. I can't remember getting on a plane. Donny, I really have worked in a ton of shops. So Skeggy were on and off. You know, am I going to make this my career? Still painting and drawing. Left it alone, so I didn't pack it in. I put it on the back burner. Got what you'd class as a 9-to-5 job. You know, I'm happy as long as there's money coming in, food on table. But I always feel that drawn back to that. You know, I really want to get back into my tattooing. As for a guest spot, it's usually sometimes no, for whatever reason. And then I put a post up. It was just over a good friend of mine, actually. His name's Scott. And he says, Kelv, he's watched me paint before, you see, and he don't see me going through your primary to your secondary. I don't know why, don't ask me why. I seem to know instantly what colour will make what colour, you know, when I'm painting. It's a bit different in tattooing because your inks, what you assume to be in that colour, are not in it.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you mix that colour with that colour, you'll get a grey. Do you get what I mean?
I think that's one of the hardest things with colour tattooing. It's not just what the appearance of that ink is, it's what's in that to make it that colour.
Yeah.
That then counteracts with the other colour. And it's a science, isn't it?
It is. I was talking to somebody who's...
The theory, I suppose, is same as painting, but it's the ingredients in it and what colours make that.
Yeah.
That then make a massive difference.
Yeah, definitely. And colours in general, you know, very strong, heavily contrasted colours. If you took a black and white picture of all your reds and all your greens, they're complementaries. This is how I used to work out which colours would work best with each other. And under a monochrome or a black and white photograph, whatever red or the same as the green, I put them together because they're fighting for the same strength on skin.
Same value.
So I'd marry them up to get a neutral. I'd then mix a grey or get a grey that fitted that. So you got your triangle. And that's how I put them together for my colour work. I have no idea what we were talking about 5 minutes ago, mate. It's just razzing along, do you know what I mean? I'm still thinking about... Actually, now you've put blanket down there, I'm getting cold. Yeah.
So what were it like, at what stage did you think, right, I'm going to open my own shop? You say you've worked in others, you've guest spotted.
2006, 2007. So I've been in an art studio, Skegness, you know, odd studio here, odd studio there, out of Doncaster. There's no point in me naming every studio in country, you know, so I did a lot of guesting.
Did you have a missus and kids out at that time?
I did, yeah.
Did they used to travel with you? How long were guest spots?
They come to, like if I was going down to Skeggy for season, 6 weeks or all like that. Sometimes it really does burn you out, you know, especially when you've got a young family. I'd probably stop down there for, they might say, can you come down for 3 weeks or 4 weeks and then come down for season. To be honest with you, I've never done a full 6 week season, you know, in High Point. It's just too much for me. Too particular about what I'm doing, you know, because I always wanted to excel in that particular field, like portraits, doing names, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, you know.
Some people make massive careers of doing simplistic stuff, don't they? But
did you mention earlier about, no, we were going to mention it actually, about people getting into industry. You know, don't ever shun off any work, ever. You know, a name could lead to a whatever, and then to something that really you're interested in.
See, I have a little bit of a, not necessarily a different approach. I say when they're learning, do everything, because you don't really know what you're going to enjoy or what niche you want to go down until you've like dipped your toe in.
Yeah.
So like on my online course, we cover horror theme, realistic stuff, portraits, script stuff.
Yeah.
I've tried to break it up into as many different themes as possible and in different styles. So even using round shaders to do entire tattoos, then using mags, then stipple shading, just so they get a feel for all the different methods of doing it, all the different styles and genres out there. And then, like I said, once you know what you want to do, and I've said it on loads of my videos, I always say, it's like if you want your teeth whitened, and you're stood on a street and you're looking at two dentists. One is a generic dentist, and then other has got a big sign, we specialise in teeth whitening.
Right.
There's only one that you're going to go to.
Yeah, you're specialist.
So I think once you've got the skills and you've built up your clientele, you actually want to just do your specific like niche or style. Because and then it's easier to market to your pool of like audience. And you automatically like get rid of your competitors. Because if you just do the one style that the customer's looking for, they're going to come to you rather than your neighbour. That it might be equally as good as you at that particular style, but because they do everything, they're just drawn to you, aren't they? Like the dentist, as an example. But yeah, moving on to getting your own shop.
Yeah, I might just finish on what you just said. Do you mind? Totally agree with what you said there, 100%. The only reason why I still do everything is because I have a tool set, and I don't just want to use those tools and let those tools go rusty. So, you know, when I'm doing portraits and colour portraits, I tend to lose a lot of knowledge what absolute beginners are starting with, and I'm relearning off them by teaching them, because I forget that tool set. So that's the only reason why I'll still do a bit of everything, you know, but definitely in what you say, if somebody says, nah, that's a man to go to, he specialises in it, then they're going to come. What was your question?
When you first opened your shop,
right, yeah,
you'd obviously been tattooing some years.
Yeah.
Opened your own shop. What was that like, from obviously working in other people's, guest spotting all up and down country in shorter stints? How was that like, having a solid base then? Obviously it's all yours. You can do what you want when you want. Nobody to answer to, decorate it how you want. It's your business to like grow and nurture, isn't it, from day one?
I think I got labelled a personality disorder, you know, because it is like, if you spend so many hours in one area, it becomes your living room. And I don't know why, I'm just a little bit fussy.
I get sick of these walls.
You can get like a cabin fever, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I mean, sometimes I can literally. It's thankful that I've got kids on alternate weekends.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't, I won't fucking leave here.
Yeah.
I wake up and I work in here.
Yeah.
And then on an evening I'll go get food, but it's like I'm an hermit. I just live, work, breathe in these walls.
Yeah, mate.
And it can get frustrating sometimes.
Takes over your life, doesn't it? Yeah.
But even when, like when I had studio in Wakefield, 7 days a week, morning till night, I'd literally get home, food, bath, bed, up on a morning, straight back to work.
Yeah.
You live at your work when it's
never any cycle, isn't it? So first studio we called Army of Ink. The reason I called it that, I don't know why people still call tattoo machines guns, but they call them guns. I'm down phone saying, would you like to buy this gun? I dread to think my phone's bugged. And someone's saying, do you want to buy a gun? Do you know what I mean? No, it's a tattoo machine. I'm sure it's that we say it for
There's
that
loads on
purpose.
my YouTube, Facebook, they're all, where can I get a gun from?
Yeah.
And you just get bored of correcting them. It's like, look,
it is
do your
a tattoo
research
machine.
first, it's a tattoo machine.
Yeah. And it's been modified from somewhere else. So it was called Army of Ink, and at that point, because of the year, I remember the year, is that people were really either out of the war or coming back from the war. So I called it Army of Ink. Generally, a lot of people went for the first tattoo on their arms. So that's where the army come in, and the army, and then the ink. So a bit of a psychological, you know, on the target shop, so to speak. I give a discount for people coming out of service. Rammed.
Where were this based?
This way, Edlington in Doncaster.
All right, so.
Yeah, I was absolutely rammed solid. I had to employ somebody else. I had 3 stations set up, and I was going from one to other. You know, hygiene's always been like, in my opinion, the main, or one of, if not the main thing in tattooing. If anybody comes to work for me or like that, or as a absolute beginner, is get inoculated against hepatitis and things like that. But yeah, I was doing the Cherry Creek, what I talked about earlier. So it'd gone from swallows, panthers, that type of thing, to covering up Tasmanian devils, covering up bulldogs. Tribal had just kicked in big time. I used to love tribal, me.
I think it's crazy how, like, fashion in the tattoo industry has gone. I mean, you'll have been putting all that tribal on that all the modern artists fucking despise.
It's funny because I'm getting stages in my life. You know, the needle and cotton job. When I started, I didn't start. We were doing it to each other. I'm having to cover the dots up. I'm having to cover the bulldogs and that up. I'm now having to cover tribal up. And it's like, I'm getting like a series of events. So everyone says that tattoos do a full circle sort of thing, but we're a bit of a twist on. And it's true, honestly.
What's tribal been swapped by then?
Well, it's more like geometric blocks, and, you know, all they're doing this crazy tribal now that's got more like rougher sort of look, you know. I think in Poland they've got like it's called a black art thing or whatever, and they're really ragging into the face, and it's like, wow.
I think one of the things that fascinates me is, I can't remember for the life of me, I've mentioned him on a few videos, but all he does is, he literally just gets like this paint, slaps it on them, and then you can obviously see all brush marks, and it's not tribal, but it's literally just like a black squiggle.
You get like a splash and a dot and then line.
Well, the majority is just coloured in solid black, but then towards ends where it tapers off a bit, you can see brush strokes. So there is a little bit of the artistic ability and skill to do it, but the majority, it's just colouring in by numbers. He's got masses of following. He has people going from all around the world, whereas the amount of like technical ability and skill level to do a portrait is far beyond
He's like
that. It's just he's specialised in it and he's that well known for it. He's smashing business and it's like super simple stuff that he's doing.
I don't know if you agree, but tattooing can be a stepping stone for a lot of arty things. You know, even what we're doing now.
Yeah.
You know, he's.
Without tattooing, I wouldn't have been able to do anything that I've done.
It's a stepping stone to a lot of things. I know people who've gone into like carpentry and doing things, or people painting swords, and you know, all sorts of. I've got a friend up in Carlisle, like, and he talks to me regularly. There's hundreds of ways of selling your artwork, depending on artwork, what artwork or field that you're doing.
I think a lot of people that are obviously into art in any form, tattooing, it's like it's a cool job now, isn't it? Everybody thinks, oh, I'm artistic. Fucking hell, I'd love to be a tattooist. You get to meet loads of people. You become well known. And it's really good money. I mean, there's people that have got to go to university, doctors, solicitors. You if you're a decent tattoo artist, you're out earning them.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have any like degrees or like schooling as such. You just have to have that artistic flair if you're good at what you do. And it bugs me sometimes because when you go places, I still, even to this day, I mean, like when I'm on flights, when I go on holiday, I'm on business class, they're all a bit oiky-toiky.
Yeah.
So last time I went, I was in bar, and there's all these like snotty people, so to speak, or talking in that manner.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a professor. And it's almost like, I mean, same earnings as all you guys.
Yeah.
But it's I'm a tattooist.
Right.
Because some people still look down the nose at it, don't they?
It's still frowned upon, yeah.
Almost, yeah, but I just think the earning potential is actually better than what all these that think that they're well off and a bit stuck up. It's like, well, hold on, I'm actually above you in that area.
Yeah.
But there's just still that thing, I don't understand why. I'm a tattooist. Because it's still frowned upon. It's like, obviously it's got 100 times better from when you started to obviously now.
I have. I've got better. Believe me, mate. What were you saying about machinery there, you know, and changing? Like, everyone used to say, oh, rotaries are crap, blah, blah, blah. And then rotaries all of a sudden took over. In my opinion, took over. You got your standard, what your standard flash would be called probably a traditional. But traditional is very hard to do. You know, it's not as easy as people think. You really got to understand, you know,
to do it to a good level.
Your bridging techniques and stuff like that. Well, you'll know about that, stretching skin. You'll have some people saying, don't stretch skin like this, you've got to stretch skin like that. And it comes under point systems and what. Listen, mate, if you can stretch that skin, keep it nice and tight.
Thank fuck for that. Wow, the amount of people I watch YouTube videos and they say you need a 5-point stretch, you need and I take piss out of them on videos.
Are they talking about the fingers? So and then using palm stretch and
and I take piss out of them saying, well, if you can fit your fucking feet up there as well and include your toes, you'll be able to get a 10-point stretch.
Is that what you said?
I just think, look, as long as the skin is taut, it don't matter how many fingers or thumbs you use. It's to serve a purpose.
It is, mate.
It's to pull that skin tight to avoid bounce out needles going in the same depth.
So you don't get a scratch, you don't get consistency.
And I just think they're trying to overcomplicate things, or well, I don't know why they're doing it, but it's to serve a purpose. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's often on top of arm. Yeah. I can't do it like that, so I'll just grab back of the arm and pull the skin tight so all front's taut.
Back or side?
Just on the outside.
Okay, yeah.
But I'll just grab it and just pull the skins. I mean, sometimes I've bruised it inside of the arm.
A lot of people, cowbite people,
And but there's no 5-point stretch. It's just that skin's tight, needles going in, ink's going in nice. Does it matter?
There's too many people to jump up and say, do it my way.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? It's like, don't do a point stretch. Listen, mate, you stretch just... I'm an old bar. You might have got worse person on your show. You do what works for you, you know. Nobody walks exactly the same way, but we'll all be lemons. Everyone does things.
Do you use round shaders?
I use a lot, mate.
So I can't remember the last time, fucking maybe 8 years ago, what last time I used a round shader while tattooing.
Yeah.
But I include it all on my course.
Yeah.
And I try and explain to people, look, just because I don't use this,
Okay.
I know loads of artists that they use round shaders all the time, and that's their favourite needle to create certain effects. Just, I don't use it because I just use corner of a mag. And I never power line, I never do any designs like that. But I understand that there's a need for it, and some people tattoo totally different to me.
Yeah.
Like you obviously use them regular, and I always stick to just saying 3 or 4 needles.
Yeah.
But it's important, I think, that everybody tries everything. So I still, every now and again, I'll get a round shader out and I'll have a play about with it. And then I remember I don't fucking like it, and I'll leave it for months again. But I think, like you say, too many people, and there's loads of courses out there that instead of giving people a skill set and then almost like teaching them to be their own artist, it's exactly what you say, copy me, use this needle, this method. And it's not, it's everybody do the exact, me, you and 15 other artists could do the same tattoo and we'd all do it different.
100%.
We'd all pick different needles, as machines would be running different. The amount of times people will comment, what volts have you got in your machine? Why do you need to know that? You need to know what volts to run your machine.
Yeah.
Because unless you're using exact same machine, which means fuck all, because your hand speed might be totally different to me. Your way of tattooing is totally different. And it's almost like they're asking that question just because of the lack of understanding.
Yeah.
But I've had tattoo artists message and say, what machine and volts do you run at? I think,
I get that all the time.
why ask them questions when there's not really an answer that's going to benefit you? Because it makes no difference what volts and I'm running it at.
As long as my client looks like there's some sort of torture going on.
As long as
I know,
it's
I'm in the niche. I'm in the parameters of our work. So you mentioned about when I got my first studio and how what and what have you. I felt, you know, when I said, I think that's when I got diagnosed with split personality. I ain't got split personality. But stepping into...
You want a blue badge?
Yeah. But stepping into my first studio, I can go in through that front part in that waiting area, but as soon as I'm in my little... I change, you know, I become the professional. You know, there is no room for error and stuff like that. Even though you're always going to get an error. I've always said a good tattooist is a tattooist who can hide a mistake. Guaranteed, you're always going to make a mistake somewhere along the line. You could just got to be good at hiding it. And that's 100%. Nobody's perfect. We're not machines. You know, we've also got to bear in mind they're moving about. And that's like trying to draw in a bumpy car, you know, sometimes. Some people, sometimes they might have been on peeve night before, so they've not got the moisture. And
I think what you've just said is a really, really good point. For all yous that are new to tattooing, learning to get over the fact that it doesn't always go right straight away. You might do a bit of a line and it looks super scratchy, or the ink's just not gone in. Now I can remember when you first start, you think of that line and think, I fucked up.
Yeah, straight away.
And self-doubt takes over, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But you haven't done it wrong.
Panic sets in.
Yeah, it's just part of the process. And like Kelvin said, it's just a case, you almost get used to things not going right first time round.
Yeah. And
then you've just got to rectify it. So for all you that are in your first couple of years of tattooing, get over that. Don't expect... The end result will always look good. Every tattoo that I do, there'll have been some areas that haven't gone right to start with. But it's a case of just building it up and making it look like the end result. It never just... You don't just click your fingers and tattoo's finished and looking good.
It'd be nice.
It's a process.
Be nice.
But it is daunting, isn't it? When
it is, yeah.
Them first few years, I can remember one instant, I would... I think it were on wrist, and it just looked, and I'd only just started, and it just looked really sketchy, the odd wobbly line, and I just looked and thought, fucking hell, I fucked up here.
It's the electricity, isn't it?
And I had to take a 5-minute break. I walked away.
I'd have took 50.
I had fag. And then I went back in, and all I had to do is, on one of the curves, it wobbled a little bit, but I just thickened that curve up, it'd wobble, and end result, it looked all right, but...
It's modifying, isn't it?
That panic, and that belief in yourself, look, it's a fuck up, get over it, let's fix it. We might have to change design slightly. If you don't mention it to customer, they're never even going to know. They'd never look at it and say, oh, you've had to rectify that bit.
I do honestly believe that there's a level of understanding in their own eyes as well. So if they're not at a level to see what you're doing or what level everybody's at, they'll never notice it anyway. It's only people who've got knowledge of that particular field that would go, well, that's not really sitting right. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
A valid point, if you don't mind me adding, it doesn't just apply to tattooing, but it's something I learned very, very early in my art career. At school, I used to hear people saying, I can't get that bit right. I just can't get that bit right. And a lot of people say I'm very analytic, so I analyse everything. You know, I like to break things down to, I don't know, to nothingness really, to why does that do that and why does it, kind of way my brain thinks. And the truth of the matter is, without light, you won't have dark. Without sharp, you won't have soft. Without a mistake, you won't have a correct. So it boils down to that last bit, right? So it's not meant to be right. So then people keep trying to get that bit right, and they're over. Let's say we do it in tattooing, they'll overwork the skin, they'll damage trauma. Trauma's your enemy. I've done it myself. What you should do, move on, and before you know it, it slots into being correct because it all fits apart, all fits a jigsaw puzzle. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. So instead of thinking, oh, I just can't get it right, you can get it right. Just move on, relax, chill. Take 5 minutes, like you say, what's going wrong. Sometimes just reassess it at the end once everything else around it is done. Yeah, as long as it's not fully saturated or like that, come back within 20, 30 minutes or whatever and continue with it, and you'll find, you'll be more happy. You end up upbeat, you'll be like, oh, I'm going to put some decent tunes on now. You're standing tall and that, because you've achieved what you've achieved. There's not rush into it, it's really take your time. So, you opened your first shop, mega busy. Yeah. How did it go from there? Verge of a nervous breakdown. Actually, what was that with? The stress of having your own shop? My blessed mother, my dad had passed away and left some money. I honestly, you can ask 1,000 people, mate, from where I'm from, and they'll all say he's just one of them people. I like to help people. I really do like to help people, and I love people helping me, which is even better. So I set the shop up, but I didn't want no money for it. I didn't want my dad's money or my mum's money because I'm married, obviously. So my mum come in as a partner. Now, don't have family as partners, you know. And I love my mum to bits. My mum's my mum, you know. But when she's walking in, and my first thing that I'm trying to explain about hygiene to my clients, more about clients, even back then, way back then, I'm like, we hand wash, you know, I had to apron, face mask. I used to get laughed at tattoo shows, conventions, because I had a mask on, I had apron on, sleeves on, everything. Do you get what I mean? They've got no wrap on the bed, they've got no clipcord sleeve on. They're not bagging the machines up, they're not. You were a bit forward in your time then when it comes to hygiene side. I've had a lot of people, I was doing a tattoo for somebody down in London, and he said that your hygiene's impeccable, really. Yeah. And everybody I've taught, in fact, I was going to say something there, but it'd be a wrong thing for me to say. I'll just say a lot of people have worked alongside me, rather than saying it the other way. Worked alongside me, I've sort of pushed for that hygiene knowledge towards them. Yes, get your hepatitis inoculation. If you're working with a light, make sure you bag your light up. Don't want to see you don't want to be working next day and having pathogens on you, like wash all your contact points, which is your seats. If you can't, bag them up in yellow bags or bin line them up or whatever you're going to do, wrap them up in whatever. Especially armrests, machines, make sure if it's a machine you can take to pieces and autoclave it. If it's piercing, obviously, autoclave your clamps or what have you. I've tried to push that all the way through my career, even down to seeing if we can get a mat. And a lot of people don't think this way. This is what I mean by analytic, or being analysing everything. Surely we can have a mat made that you can step on and step in and out of that sterilises your feet. Because in a group environment where there's like 6 or 7 or 8 or 3 or whatever who's working in that studio, your pathogens are squirted up and they land, and you're walking it in and out. And if you've got kids at home, kids play with your shoes. You know, so.
Or even transferring from one floor to another.
That's it, into the next station. Another thing what I'm bad with as well, don't take your inks to another station and bring them back. Don't take your clean film to that station, bring it back or whatever. Whatever you've got needs to be in your station. And I've got you know, people find me hard to work with on that sense because of that thought process.
Yeah, I have mine a bit different. So whenever my setup, there's no inks allowed.
Yeah.
Because I'd class it as a red zone.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So I keep all my inks outside of that.
Yeah.
If I run out of ink, it's gloves off before you leave that red zone.
Every time,
as such.
Yeah.
Get me ink, come back in, top ink up, put the ink back out,
Yeah.
and then back in fresh gloves because you're back in that red area. It'd be good to do.
See, that'd be
somewhere
ideal
really
to
in
work with
future.
you.
Yeah, do you know?
Yeah. What's some on hygiene itself?
Yeah, so the hygiene, all the laws and the hygiene principles. It's like we've got a lot of people. I think 54% of my students and viewers are American,
All right.
depending on what states they're in. I mean, I feel sorry for you guys that this applies to. Although possibly long term it'll obviously benefit you, but the hurdles that they've got to go through just to open a shop. We've got it so easy in the UK. You basically need nothing as long as you pay for your tattoo license. They come out, and council, let's be honest, they ain't got a fucking clue. They'll come into your studio and ask a few questions, and you could tell them totally fucking wrong answer. They ain't got a clue.
Mate,
They give you it anyway, don't they?
We're probably basically teaching them.
Yeah.
You know.
But in parts of America, a lot of my students, they've messaged saying, I've got to do this. I've got to have so many hours recorded. They've got to do our health and safety side.
Was that how it's run over there?
Oh, well, only in some areas, some states. The loopholes that they've got to go through is shocking. So on my online course,
Yeah.
my stress is, look, I'll teach you with the machine in your hand,
Yeah.
the skills to be able to tattoo. It doesn't go into your shop, the hygienes, nothing. It is just this is a machine and this is how you create a tattoo.
Right, yeah.
Just because them lessons apply to every artist no matter where you are.
Yeah.
All the health and safety and the legal side and the cleanliness, depending on where you are, is slightly different. Like in UK, there's not any laws, so as long as there's no cross-contamination, everything's clean and sterile, that's good enough. But because I don't know the laws and regulations that's worldwide applicable, I don't want to include something that's right here but could be wrong somewhere else. So it'd be worth looking into and doing something that covers every aspect of it. So yeah, how did it go from then, having this... So obviously you started, it had a massive eye,
Yeah.
head space, and then it started going up and down.
It wasn't an area that you could find me in, because the original name I was going to call it Hidden Gem, because I wanted a studio that people had to find me, and I knew if they looked for me and found me, they're really serious about the tattoo. You know, I had people travelling 50, 60 miles plus daily, so they're always serious when they landed there. And I never took piddle weight cash wise, you know what I mean? I thought, oh, they've travelled all that way, like, squeeze another 20, 30 out. I never did that. I always say to him, look, you could have like a bit of tattoo fever afterwards, a low sugar count. I always give him a bit of chocolate or whatever, as long as it's not diabetic. And let me know, concern really for your client, let me know when you get home. From them, and then End Up World will come in and stuff like that. Were it 2020 or something like that?
Is this for COVID?
No, when were End Up World supposed to happen? Something like with Mayans.
Oh, fuck no.
So
That's
20...
the first I've heard of it. When will End Up World happen?
Oh, well, anyway, okay.
2012.
Yeah, 2012.
Yeah,
2012.
Thank God
so
that didn't happen.
So, well, from that period, so 2007 up to 2012, I ran Army of Ink. Then I moved on to the Prophecy of Army of Ink. So now I changed names. So now, like, just a standing joke. Oh, I knew you were coming today. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm prophesying. And I was having my logo made, and I was going to have like a...
You go quite in, I've noticed, with a lot of stuff. I think your brain works similar to me. You go into the psychology of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
When you're thinking of your names and then swap into something else, a little joke that it can have into it.
Yeah.
I'm quite
keep that
similar
bit of
to
humour there all the time as well, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah. And the banner organ I've done, which I never ended up having doing, were like a woman looking into a crystal ball and an army of ink with all ocean waves taking it in and stuff like that. So creativity, really, being creative. That's when I started to be more creative. So instead of just doing portraits, I start adding things to it, right? And all I was seeing at that point were a lot of portraits being done colour-wise, or animals, or whatever, a Rubik's Cube, let's say, yeah, with a blue wash around it, that's it. What I started to do was add tribal-based sort of shapes around the images. But needed to say there's a few pictures to look at, and
Yeah.
I'll explain that on one particular one.
Yeah, we're going to go through some of his work. I'll leave you to finish about when you first opened your shop and how that progressed. But then we've picked some of his work, and hopefully you can explain.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind a lot of these, they're quite new. So the process that you took, why you made it fit body, how it did, aimed at a complete beginner.
Yeah.
But we'll do that after you finish. So.
Right. So first shop, success. Kept getting leaks in back. Landlord would just felting top of roof, and I thought time to move on to a different one. Actually moved into the local dentist who'd moved out. He were a butcher as well. I can remember him giving me gas and air and dragging me down to the back room in that actual particular building when I was a kid. It's strange what I remember. But went really well in there. Started then to get apprentice in. Well, I won't say apprentice, but apprentice to the industry, but to me, a friend and a co-worker. You know, so I always treat them like a co-worker and friend. Sometimes difficult, can get a bit bitchy, you know.
I think the tattoo industry as a whole is worse than fucking hairdressers.
It's difficult, and
Yeah.
it's very, very difficult.
Instead of as an industry, everybody helping each other. Like as soon as me and you got talking, I mentioned coming in for a podcast. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
We'll work together. The amount of people that I've spoke to saying, "Oh, do you want to come in for a podcast?" Brilliant for my channel and my business.
Yeah.
Brilliant for their advertising and all that. It's win-win.
Yeah.
But it's like I don't know why, but as an industry or people in the industry, it's just almost like the dog eat dog, and they want to, rather than helping everybody.
Yeah.
It's just they want everybody else to fail and them succeed, rather than we're all on the same ship, aren't we?
Yeah.
There's
Definitely.
plenty of customers to go around fucking everybody. So I don't understand why people ain't got that same attitude as well.
It's strange about that. I don't understand some people.
Yeah,
you know,
it is.
I don't. So from that first shop, I've been open 3 months. I won Best Portrait Sheffield. I've won Best of Show Leeds.
So
from my
these
first
are all
shop.
different tattoo conventions?
Yeah, from my first shop, which was Army Inc. Moved into Prophecy Festival and started winning bigger shows and bigger shows. And that's when I decided to get an apprentice, because the onslaught or the overpowering of messages at crazy times at night, I mean, I complain about it, but I do it. I'll message somebody and, you know, if it's something to do with tattoo related, or I've had an idea about this product or what have you, you know. Kelvin's
It's a job that you never leave, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
But then in my brain I'm whinging about people sending me a message. They're not stating on they want a direct answer. But I'm like, can you not contact me tomorrow? I should think before I've already typed it and I'm like, no, I'll send that. So I delete it. Then I go to send something else and I'm like, I'm going to leave it all tomorrow. Then I'm tossing and turning all night and I think, I'm going to write something.
I have to be careful, Kai.
Yeah.
I can message him, so same as you, something will pop into my head. It might be 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But I message him thinking I need to get the message there so it's there. Meaning for him to do it next day. But I get a reply on it.
When we first started talking, that's me, that. Can you remember what you said to me? When you sent me the number?
Oh yeah,
I phoned
as
you straight away.
as soon as
You went,
possible.
that was quick. I'm like,
I were in Bath.
Yeah.
And I message you. Ring as soon as, boom, ring.
yeah. I'll leave phone away. Yeah, so from that, apprentice did fantastic. Brilliant, honestly. The lad's an absolute gem. He works up in Sheffield. Gone on, he's decided to take a step away from having any artist, really, any involvement in his business, and he does fantastic. He does. Really.
Well, just on his own.
He come to me, he got suggested to me by another lad in Sheffield who said he wasn't taking anybody on at the time, but he knew how busy I were in my first shop. And he first come to see me in my first shop. And I left it a while, and he says, I build machines, so I'd look at his machines. I thought, do you know what? For somebody who's not really educated in the line, only young lad, very entrepreneurial, you know, his wits about him with social media and stuff like that.
Switched on.
And I want, I think I mentioned this to you before, is I never really did social media, so now I'm having to go back and teach myself media and sort of lay off me tattooing a little bit till I've caught up. Whereas a lot of youngsters, well, I'm not going to say youngsters, but a lot of people now coming into the industry are already media made.
Yeah.
So having them machines that are built for particular specific jobs, they might want to do portraits. There's machines out there that'll benefit them straight away. So I think that's what a lot of artists are scared of. You know, it's getting infiltrated, and there's work for everybody. It don't matter. It's like you say you built your own course.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? You know?
Oh, the amount of hassle I've had over it.
Well, you can look at that a lot of ways. You know, I would think in industry, have we got to? No, mate. There's that much money and that many different people that the younger generation won't come to me because of my age. They'll come to somebody if I employ somebody younger. They'll gel more. I get more of the older generation. Or a lot of people have lost children, or you know, that sort of thing, because my field is portraiture. If somebody's going to turn around and say, "Oh, he's got a course going, blah blah blah," well, just a minute. If you take an apprentice on, you're doing a minor version of what you're
So
doing.
I try and explain this. I said, an in-person apprenticeship.
Yeah.
They're over your shoulder and they're watching. So I don't know, you might be, let's say you're just tattooing a black square.
Yeah.
At the end of that they say, can you show me that again? Well, you can't, can you?
No.
It's fucking done. Whereas how perfect would it be if whilst they were watching you, you recorded it and then you said, right, you can go watch that 50 times if you want.
Definitely, yeah.
And there's some practice skin, go copy that lesson 50 times. I just don't understand how all these artists that are trying to slag off the online approach and say you can't do it like that. Why? Why can't you? What's the difference apart from the benefits of being able to rewind and rewatch?
Yeah.
50 times, 100 times. and you're not doing it practicing on a person. It's all done on artificial skin. That didn't exist years ago. No. It's all new stuff that's there to purposely designed for that job, to practice and to learn.
I don't even think we had 3-4 passes back in the day. It was just one pass. You're done. Next.
Like a fucking tractor.
Yeah, mate. I used to use they were like 13s. They were 12s and 13s, so your standard 12s and 13s. But your 13s are 0.40, a thicker, robust gauge.
Smashing inking.
Yeah, mate. I'll tattoo an house brick, especially if you've got a good heavy machine. You know, there's no sparks coming off. It's just the skin flying everywhere. You know what I mean? You've got like a big yellow suit to tattoo in. You know what I mean? Wiping the screen down to see what's happening. But yeah, I just don't understand why people be against it. If anything, it's informative. It's going to cut down on, especially if it's hygiene, it's going to cut down on health and safety.
Well, one of the things that's main point that nobody seems to understand is that what they say is, oh, you're creating, I mean, there's thousands of people that has gone through my courses.
Yeah.
From literally worldwide. And then all these artists, you're just creating scratchers.
Right.
You haven't been on fucking course.
Yeah.
There's not one part of that course that says, go off and tattoo you yourself or your friends. It is all done on artificial skin.
Yeah.
There's no scratches.
Yeah.
There's nobody hurting anybody. It's done in the comfort of their own home with artificial skin to learn the skills and techniques.
And do you know without that course,
then they become a scratcher, yeah.
They're going to be a scratcher anyway. So because it's so popular and it's looked upon as like, wow, it's the end thing, you know, they're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Why not have your course?
And that's why, one of the reasons why I offer first 30 days for free. So anybody that don't want to do it full course, and they're going to be a scratcher anyway, at least they've got that bit of knowledge to be a better scratcher. Yeah. Even though we say don't do it. Some people, a lot of people, they just don't listen anyway. They're going to go off and do their own thing.
I'll be honest with me. If you didn't have your course, I'd be doing one. I would honestly, because, you know...
Why not?
It's horses for courses, isn't it? You know, if you've got something there and you can share...
Funnily enough,
yeah,
all my course is done in black and grey.
Yeah.
I have a trash polka section.
All right, yeah.
That does introduces a bit of red.
Yeah, a bit of red splashes and dots and what have you.
Yeah. Other than that, it's all black and grey. The principle being is to apply a colour tattoo. Right. The techniques are the exact same, i.e. the machine, the movements, whip shading, still whip shading, brush shading, packing. The machine mechanics is identical to doing black and grey. It's the colour theory and understanding all that that's totally separate. And I've said to them all, look, it is an entire course on its own. Yeah. To understand, you've got to, like you had all background of painting and the colour theory, complementary colours, contrasting, what colours work well together. You've got to understand colour and then apply it into tattooing. Yeah. And then there's the variations, like you said, between the difference on how colours react and respond to each other compared to painting. So it is its own entire course. And I think the traditional pieces that are done with colour, where it's very limited colour palette, and it's just black blended into a red, into all old school stuff, not really mixing colours together. Whereas, and then you obviously specialise in like super realistic colour work. It's a totally different game and a totally different way to teach or learn. But you can't do one without doing the other. You've got to start off with them basics, haven't you?
Yeah, your foundation.
So that'd be good to put into just a dedicated only, look, introduction to colour, advanced colour, so people can understand the theory behind the colours, which I personally think it would be one of the hardest things to actually teach, because it's a lot of theory behind it. It's not just the machine dynamics. They've got to understand colour. And I think it's hard to teach a beginner, because if you were doing the exact same tattoo on somebody with really fair skin,
Right.
and then somebody with like a mid-tone skin, quite tanned,
Yeah.
you'd have to mix the colours up slightly different to get the same result, isn't it?
Yeah.
So unless they've got at least a good few years experience tattooing skin and understanding how it responds different, the lessons won't really make sense to them.
No. He's learning to say no as well. Depending on how dark the skin is, you've got to say no at some point.
Yeah, they.
You know, if you know that red is going to look like a mucky brown, don't do it. If you're not very good with colour, and you get your colours mixed up in your Union Jack, don't do colour at all.
Question for you. So I don't do colour now.
Okay.
But when I first started like you, I did bits of everything.
Yeah.
And I can remember on one particular guy, and I have no idea why.
Yeah.
Maybe you can elaborate on it. Fucking hell, what it was like a Japanese koi.
Okay.
He had half a sleeve, and then in background it was like a white fish, red specks on it,
Yeah.
blended into like an orange. But then all in background, it were all like underwater, so we had an underwater theme.
Yeah.
It took amazing to colour. The whites looked like a sheet of paper almost.
Did you use white or?
Yeah, just solid
or
white.
ivory?
So like you were mentioning in thing,
Well,
if it's not fully white, then it all.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, so I just used white. Obviously, it wasn't just all coloured in white. I'd mix some colours in to create shadows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But his skin was just amazing. All background were all different blues to make it look underwater.
Okay.
But then for some reason, I have no idea why, green just would not. It was best person I've ever tattooed for colour. The ink just sat in his skin.
And the green wouldn't take?
Green just would not take. It would a ball ache to get in. And then I think I had to go over it 3 or 4 times. You had to go out at shop, let it heal, come back a month later.
Yeah.
And it was just an absolute nightmare. Brand of ink that I used at that time was Shadowline. And the greens, I'd used them loads of times.
From
It wasn't ink, it was.
Derby they were from, weren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
Yeah, Shadowline.
I just can't understand why. And I've had it before slightly, and I know some people that just don't respond to pigments in a certain colour.
Yeah.
But his was shocking. Just literally would not go in. And then even the healing process, it was as if he were allergic to whatever they put in that particular ink.
We used to test back in day, but predominantly for reds. You know, just put a bit of red on the skin and wrap it up. Leave it so long.
See,
any red
I've heard that reds are, were it blue?
It could be any colour really, because you have something what's called a product data form or product data sheet, and it tells you about the ink, what's in the ink, what it's made of, where you shouldn't apply it, etc. And you know what C numbers it's made of.
Fucking stick to black and grey, it's so much easier.
Oh, black and grey, it's like you're saying there with black and grey. Have you ever put a bit of black and grey on? You start off with your black and grey and thought, shit, it's too dark. Sorry for swearing.
All right.
But from a novice point of view, I used to do that and think, oh, it's too dark. What am I comparing it to?
Yeah,
I've not really put anything on there yet, really. I think that's why a lot of people work from dark to light. Was I'll go either way. It doesn't make no difference.
So
a lot of people go from light to dark.
I typically will put my dark areas in. Because what I don't want to do is put mid-tones, just for an example, get them too dark, and then they're too close to dark areas, and you've just lost that pop, haven't you, that contrast. But in my course, I'll do drills, and I'll actually say to people, look, do one full row of these drills, dark to light. The next row, do it in reverse, start light, and then build it up to your darks. Just, again, I'd always go dark area to light area. Unless sometimes on portraits like cheekbones, I'll start just brushing it in all light areas and gradually get darker. So, yeah, typically I'd say predominantly I'd go dark to light, but there is obviously areas. I think softer, when you're doing softer, more delicate work, it don't really matter where you start. It's creating the end result, innit? People get fixated on doing it just one way. rather than building it up. Or being like ambidextrous, you've got to be able to do
You're
it.
going to kill me after this session. You just are. No, it's I like to hear what other people got to say as well. There's people I listen to, I think, oh yeah, that's wicked.
If you disagree, you say what you've got to say.
It's the underlying factors that make me work in a particular manner. For instance, yeah, how many nurses take your blood with your arm completely straight? They don't, because it'll cause bruising. So trauma is your enemy. So having it slightly relaxed when you have your blood tone will stop you getting a bruise. And it's the same with tattooing. If you fully extend on an elasticated area or an area of rotational elasticity, it's going to cause that weave to get stronger, which causes more recoil. You'll push in more. You're going to get more bruising and damage where you won't see your colour. Fluid retention. So let's say you start off at wrist, because a lot of people work up now like a printer.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever mentioned what's happening to that trauma. Now, water builds up, or your body starts to retain fluid to protect your damaged areas. So you're in a race.
If it starts
from
blood
bottom,
cells to that area, doesn't it?
yeah. If it starts from that bottom, you've got to work quite quickly because it's chasing. It can only go up. Fluid can't go down. It goes up. So if you're working up the arm, then you're going to hit a point where it's just going to stop taking. So depending on how their body's behaving and how much trauma will dictate how I'm going to utilise my techniques and whatever when I'm working. And down to stretching again. I've seen people have fight, so they've sat on a chair, they've had the fight, which is, I think, is quite stretched anyway, when they're at 90 degree.
Yeah.
As they get further on, I'll straighten the leg out to release that bit of tension. I've seen people stretching skin when it's completely full of fluid and still stretching skin. And I think you're just ripping them to pieces. I know through experience because I've had bad heels back. I'm not ashamed.
You can overstretch the skin, can't you?
You can, yeah. And even on a 3-pass tattoo.
I think, especially when it comes to, I'll use portraits as an example again. If you're trying to get just a really light grey wash,
Yeah.
if you overstretch the skin, it's just ripping in too much.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just let go a little bit, so it's not quite as taut,
Yeah.
it allows you to maybe do a couple of passes without tearing skin up.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's hard to explain without doing it for years, isn't it? It's like having a balloon, a sheet of balloon fabric.
Yeah.
If you pull it really, really tight and then start smashing it with a needle, if you've got it too tight, it's just going to rip in half, isn't it?
There you go.
You've got to get
yeah.
it just right, and I suppose that'll only come with just years of experience and trial and error, and tattooing different skin types as well. Everybody's different, aren't they?
Yeah. Back to that coil. That'll even go over psoriasis. But
So, I'm really keen to get onto designs, so I'll...
yeah, no problem.
So yeah, going through some of your work, obviously fucking absolutely amazing at what you do. The amount of detail and precision. And just down to it all, really. So obviously we'll start off with Lion.
Okay, buddy.
If you want to just talk, as if you were talking to a complete novice, why you've put it in that position, the process that you'd take to do it, and just a brief...
I can remember roughly talking to this gent. He wanted...
Just quickly. That is one of the things about tattooing
Yeah.
that I find bizarre. I'm shit with names.
Yeah.
I've got a shit memory, to be fair.
Say again.
In a lot of aspects. But do you ever find that a customer will walk in and you think, who the fuck are they?
Yeah.
As soon as you see a tattoo that you've already done on them, it might have been years ago, you can remember exactly who they are, conversations that you've had. But it takes, it's almost like a trigger. It takes being able to see previous work that you'd already done on them first, and then it all comes flooding back.
Not that I'm hiding my face, but I'm going to take my hat off so you can see I'm being genuine here. I've had people walk in and say, could you colour that up? I say, who's done you that? You know, just at a, and they'll go, You did, about 10 years ago. And I'll be like, so I look around me, there's people around me, I'm like, don't remember doing that, I don't know you, mate. And they're like, yeah, Kelvin, we were at such... Oh, that right, you moved a lot, didn't you? No, I'm perfectly still, Kelvin, you shit. But,
see, I'm opposite me. As soon as I see tattoo, it's like I can remember everything about them again, even down to conversations that we had.
first and foremost, everyone's had a bad heel. You're only as good as your last tattoo, in my opinion. I talk about what we're pulling up here. So this line, client comes in. He wanted it a lot smaller, actually. And I explained to him, if you're going to draw a fence, you would draw upright sticks to start the fence side by, enjoying in general. So this one here, I said, a lion's a very big, powerful animal. Your legs are classed as a big, powerful part of your body. He wanted it on his calf at first. I said, why not go for 5? And I find working bigger allows that freedom of your hand, you get what I mean, instead of being, where'd you go from? As soon as you're on a smaller piece, you've got nowhere to go, you've got no freedom, you're straight away tied in. There's a lot of stress applied to your body. Bad neck, eye strain, bad back, you're just aching, you're tired, you lose interest because you're spinning the bobbin all over. If you can sit back and see what it's going to be, I think that's fantastic. So first thing I said to him,
movements.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it comes down to fluid movement. So on this part here, your vastus lateralis on the outer leg, you can see a sweep at the bottom what I've put. So what I did was, because your eyes are naturally drawn to light, this comes from a painting background, this does. When you're born, you're like partially blind, you haven't yet developed seeing light. Every time you wake up, you're drawn to light. So use light as a way of controlling where the onlooker will look. So what I did was, I tried to create an infinity. So I had a soft entry, which is at the bottom of them couple of lines, which cause interest. So when you look at that lion, you cannot help but look at them eyes first, the nose second, and then thirdly, you will look at them lines. And I've made you do that through the way where I've put, first and foremost, the shape of it. So I've tried to create an infinity. So you have a primary feature.
Also, it follows the flow and movement of the quad.
Yeah, so the attachment and flow. So a guy called Bez brought out a program years ago, and he was spot on with what he said about, if you straighten your tricep down, it leads at an angle. You follow that angle onto a focal point, and then have a soft exit. That kind of manner. So when I look at a lot of portraits, there's no disrespect to artists and stuff like that. I've gone through it myself. I've now set myself back to doing things differently. A lot of children's portraits, I see that people are putting too much information in the eyes. You turn that face to that side on, and eyes will be here when they're not in real life. So the relationship of features are manipulated needles, so the needles I chose were different to give me a grain texture, soft or sharp. And also I did modify a few other areas, like the whiskers on this, I did black rather than white.
Oh, we're going to actually ask you that.
That will fit longevity at tattoo. So I made a conscious decision on that one. I started, because it's a full quad, I know in your mid-range you're going to retain a lot of water retention, trauma. You get, as you mentioned, white blood cells are going to be coming into that area. So I thought, right, if I'm going to lose anything, I want them features to stay. So I started with the features. And what I did with the eyes was, I actually started with nose, so I worked backwards. I actually worked backwards on the image, like I was sculpting it.
So first, did you block all the main areas in?
No. I just picked one area to work off. So you'll find on that picture, the nostrils at darkest. So I knew my darkest area, I knew my lightest areas. So I started with nose. On the nose itself, I used a long taper, predominantly. The fur above it, I used the long taper and medium taper. So the further I went back on the nose, I made the taper shorter, which would give you a softer value. Now, if you picture two pieces of tissue, one's wet, one's dry, and you drop a blob of ink onto wet one and your dry one, on your wet one it will blur. On your dry one it will stay static. So what I do is a pre-wash. If I really want to set something back, on your pre-wash, I put a pre-wash in, then I'd etch into the pre-wash so you get a blur. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So it sits it back even more.
Almost like you're opening the skin up first.
Yeah, so then it bleeds into it.
Yeah,
So even if you're using long taper or medium taper, on long tapers, for instance, the eyes themselves, if you zoom in, these sharper eyelash type things in your dots and stuff, I put in first, then I put the wash over the top because I want them to sit forward. If I want them to sit back, then I would have put the wash in first, then on top I would have put your lines. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So it would have been more set back. More forward. So that's how I worked around this particular image. A lot of people, when they're using a side motion, I use like a pendulum motion, but I work very, very quickly. I found the quicker I work, now, depending on how fast you've got your machine running, if you've got your machine running too slow, you're going to end up with soul marks with quite a distance in between. So it might look perfectly
ladder effect.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So you know, you could think, oh, it looks great, but when it heals, it looks rough as a whatever. So we talked about flow, direction, light, and stuff like that, and what kind of. I was looking at him and really getting a feel for what he were about. He wasn't an angry person, so we went with a more subtle, mouth closed.
So I've seen, actually, I'm not going to mention the shop,
Yep.
but they're constantly knocking work out at the minute.
Okay.
Big shoulder pieces,
Yep.
thigh pieces, and it seems to be like an ongoing trend that they're doing. So in my personal opinion, the fitting,
Yep.
where you're doing it more from like almost like an artistic and trying to create a focal point.
Yeah.
I just said, look, it's got to fit that body part.
Yeah.
If you've got a big chest and you want a fucking tiny tattoo in the middle, it's just floating, innit? There's too much space.
Yeah.
It's like we look at that and it's touching it's touching knee, it's touching right as high as you'd want to go
Yeah.
on thigh, and then it's touching both sides. It fills the area. Whereas these that I've seen, like I said, I'm not going to mention shop, big shoulder, and then just they'd put that, but there'd be so much skin round outside.
Yeah.
So it looks like it shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
It don't fill the area. It don't fit the body part. It's just floating in middle, and that to me is just a design error. It shouldn't be done like that. It should fit the body part correctly.
I'd call that a framed image. So you could stick a frame around it.
Yeah, but there's no frame. It's just
there's no
emptiness.
frame, yeah. Or there's some that you oversize and you might only get like an eye, a nose, and then the rest of it's left to your imagination. So the onlooker's creativity takes over their image and has a little bit of adventure with it. Do you get what I mean?
One of the things,
Yep.
I don't know many artists that do this, but it's something that I mentioned on course and I've mentioned on quite a few videos. Did you stretch the image prior to putting it on?
If I'm going to stretch an image, which I do with everything that curves,
That's why I was asking with
I'll
curve.
go probably an inch out. So I'll give so much each side. If you don't, you're going to get an elongation
Yeah, it
or a
narrow.
warp.
So I try and explain
gonna
that, and I have not met that many artists that actually do it.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
But I say if you print a square out
Yeah.
on a flat piece of paper, perfect square, wrap it around a cylinder and take a photo of it,
Yeah,
it's then narrower than it is tall,
yeah,
and it's trying to match the amount of curve with the amount that you extend it,
yeah.
so that once it's on, although theoretically it's too wide now, to human eye it looks exactly like it should. And portraiture, obviously that's mega important in getting dimensions right.
So do you know what a Nautilus shell is?
A what?
Nautilus. It's like a number 9 sort of shape. It's to do with Fibonacci sequence. Of, But anyway, it's almost like you do your shoulder, you know, if you've got a soft entry
Yeah.
and then you use,
Swerve up
let's say
round tricep.
staggered silhouettes of birds,
Yeah.
which if you're left behind it and it's in dark clouding, It's the lighting behind it that will draw your eye up. Land onto a focal point, keep you in that area, have a secondary focal point a little bit further down, so it starts to draw you back down, and then a soft exit. Now, instead of people going, oh, that's a nice tattoo, they'll go, can I have another look? But they don't know why they're looking. What you're doing, you're controlling the onlooker's view of it, because what's happening is, it brings it more to life if you've got a primary and a secondary focal point, because your eye bounces between the two, which is causing movement. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm creating movement through the eyes and the nose, through lighting. So you will look at the eyes, you will look at the nose, but you want to look again. So it's keeping that coming back. So rather than just plonk, or something that, I mean, there's people that can do lines better than me, tigers better than me, but they seem to be like people that photocopy. You know, that they'll copy that to an absolute T, but disregard the underlying elements that are holding it onto that body. So it's attachment, flow, direction, focal point, secondary focal point. You know, having the relationship of features. So if your nose sits in front, make it sit in front. If you're using a long taper, that generally gives you a sharper, more stronger line. If you're using a medium taper, it'll give you a more sat back, smoother line. It's used then. If you're doing it into a pre-washed area, it's going to sit even further back. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And then does your
So on that point, put the, just so people understand, if you were washing an area first,
yep.
and then putting areas in there, it's going to not bleed out, but it's going to dilute the end result almost. Yeah. So the bolder areas, put in first, and then wash over. If you want them to sit, like if you zoom right into these eyes, you can see all them little dots, them speckles around them.
That's right.
You wanted them to be more prominent, so you've put them in first.
They've gone in first, yeah.
And then you've washed off at top. Yeah. If you wanted them to be more like distorted and less prominent, it'd have done it the other way around. That's what point that it's trying to make. Yeah. It'd have washed it first and then put them in after.
Now
so I'm guessing you did same with nose, yeah? Them little speckles on nose, you put them in first because they're quite prominent, aren't they?
Yeah, and you can do the same with white as well. Some of it's white, some of it's ivory.
Yeah, so that's a really good point that you mentioned to me.
Yeah.
Something that I never knew that. I'll let you explain it just by dropping that bit of yellow you said to me, won't it?
Yeah.
Or ivory, rather than just solid white.
Well, white seems to be a carrier. So if you're making opaques in general, you put several pots of white out. I'm not going to say sequence I use, but let's say in your second pot you use 8 drops and 6 drops and 4 drops and 2 drops of black. Use a mixer, you're going to get variations of grey. White being a more heavily pigment, rather than mixing solution, is going to be stronger. So when you add black to it, black is more of a dye, so it will dye the actual white. So it carries a lot of colours. It's a carrier because it's semi-translucent or translucent. You try putting white over certain colours, no chance. You add a certain colour to white, you're more chance of getting over it, you know, for a cover up or what have you. For people who don't hold white very well, you can look at their old tattoos and stuff and think they've gone yellowish. I'll use ivory. So by putting 1 drop of white into yellow into a full bottle of white and shake it up, it'll be just slightly offset white. It'll be more ivory.
Because white as an ink is obviously a really high concentration of pigment in it.
It is, yeah. It's more loaded with
pigment.
But
like you say, because that is almost translucent, so to speak.
Yeah.
By adding that drop of colour,
yeah,
it makes it more opaque. It makes it more solid.
It's an opaque colour, yeah. Your body will accept the colour, but it stops. Light shines through. I do painting in Velatura. It's done in glazes, and what I love about it is you've got what's called the bistry level, which is your blueprint, which is your underpainting. So you do all your painting in a bistry like a burnt umber, which is a warm brown. actually what they make.
You can actually buy that in a grey wash now, can't you?
Can you buy it in a grey wash, yeah?
I can't remember the brand that do it, but it's not black and grey.
I think they used to do it time ago, but
Sienna.
Prima.
Is it
Yeah, you've
sienna
got burnt
colour? It
sienna.
looks like
or
burnt sienna.
Yeah, burnt sienna is coal, so your siennas are coal. Or wait, there's burnt umber, burnt sienna. Yeah,
It's got like that. I can't
you
think
can make
of where
flush
to
tints
describe.
with
See, I never do colour, do I? So that's your forte.
I make art. Yeah, to go on to the...
So next we've got Breaking Bad. That's the next
Do
one.
you want to jump on it?
Yeah.
Right. Drove me crackers, this did. So, in my little meth lab, inside bicep...
Can you remember doing this?
I can, because I were in a different country and I couldn't speak a word of their language apart from tack, and that's all I can remember. I was starving while I was doing it as well. In fact, my gums were retracting while I was doing tattoo. Now this is on an armpit.
Oh, so it's on inside the bicep, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I actually used on
Quite
this,
soft skin there, but I think it holds really well.
yeah.
It's not weathered, it's on inside the body. I always say to people it's a really nice place for portraits because it stands test of time. It's never under elements, is it?
No. What I do with my black and grey, I don't, if I'm doing it from a preset wash, so if I've got a wash set, I never dip into my wash cup. It's already a wash. Defeats the object. If I'm working straight off black, then obviously I'll work at different speeds to get different whatever.
That's a really good point, because at the beginning of my course,
Yeah.
I disagree with people learning in black and grey to use washers from start.
Yeah.
You should learn with just solid black ink, because you can create a shade
You can do, yeah.
by hand, a machine speed,
Yeah.
and the method of tattooing. So you whip shade with solid black. It's like the thing, well, if you're using solid black, it's just going to be black. But it's down to machine speed, hand movement,
Yeah.
whipping out, it all affects it. So you can actually do a full portrait with just a pot of black.
Well, your differentials of your soul marks or the distance, it actually makes your eye believe that it's lighter because to see more skin underneath rather than...
So to try and teach that exact principle, I start off with dot work.
Yeah.
Your dots are closer together.
Yeah.
Look, that bit's darker. As it gets lighter, your dots further apart. So that was my way of trying to teach that principle. That's like the main principle behind black and grey, isn't it?
Yeah.
Apart from a wash, obviously, just aids and helps you do that.
Of course, mate. You got to learn how to gauge as well. So doing dots, how many dots do you do in one session? It learns you, if each dot is getting closer and closer to being a twin of its side by side, you're getting better of that pre-entry. So that entry,
so
your
depth.
line work,
And just fucking muscle memory.
that's it. So your depth is going to be more or less spot on all the time. So in this one, I started off with a grey wash outline under armpit. Fear of losing that stencil, even though I can draw and paint.
Why make your life hard?
Yeah, I still did the same thing. Put a bit of extra width on it in Photoshop to make sure you didn't get any warp and stuff like that. So as you put your transfer on, it looked more, more
As it should to eye.
Yeah. I kept all the detail really around the beard and the eyes, because I've noticed in the film, like I tried to do everything relative. There's a lot of talking in the series, which tends to draw you, I don't know why, it just draws people more to the mouth. Like, how did you do the beard? So it's got, I did actually, in the previous one where I said that I used, which were the black and grey, if I want to soften something, etc. I did sort of the same process, but I'd put a medium colour wash. So there's a colour set by Fusion, and that's the colour set I used for this particular piece. Now, to get, if you look on the left hand side of the face, because the background's green, I added green into the colour.
Mainly into that shadow, isn't it?
Yeah, to get reflective colour.
Yeah.
So to get the shadow, usually I'd use like a clay grey or something like that. But I decided to use the reflective colour to give it more of a
Looks like you've added a bit just top left, just under his hat as well, where it's slightly shadowed down that side.
Yeah, you've got bits of green all over that. And then you've got even a bit
See,
of purple.
that's something that, this is what I mean with it's so hard to teach somebody colour. To look at that, you're never looking at it thinking, he's put green on face.
Yeah, I put green on face, yeah.
So learning colour to a high level, if we zoom right in, we can see that shadowing just at side here and below. So this part at face, it don't look like it's green, but because he's put that just that slight tint, just literally a dip, it'll have been needle just touching it, won't it?
It will. On the eyes, I used a magenta. On the inside lids, if you look, and what have you. And also the right hand side of the nose, I used a magenta on this part of the nose here. There's a magenta, but that's over the top of the pre-done. I've already put the.
So you're layering the colours in.
Yeah. So really, I've stained, because there's been me mentioning that white's a carrier, is that they've used a particular colour and used whites infusion to make them colour values, so very relative. Knowing it's a carrier, that I'd be able to stain, like you'd stain with black to make an opaque. That's what I've done with these greens and magentas. In paint, it's called Alzarian Crimson. And I used a burnt umber and Alzarian Crimson, which would be dark brown, and it would be magenta in tattoo terms, with a touch of black, depending on how dark I were getting. So that's for the darker parts of the magentas. The beard was done with black, magenta and blue. And also on the other side, if you looked at middle at chin, you can see a bit of green in there as well.
Yeah, you can see like a bit of purple as well, just towards right hand side.
That's right, yeah. That's the magenta and I think he used magenta and just black on that part. And magenta in your creases as well. So if you look between your fingers, you know, when it's brown and magenta, or brown and Alzarian Crimson, is a very warm flesh tone. So he's actually looking at areas that will be warm as well, like your nostrils where it inserts will be warm, inside your ear will be warm. You know, the areas where you breathe through and stuff like that, or because they're connected, that's where I use the warm values. Cool values.
There's fucking so much that goes into colour. It mind boggles me, mate. Honestly, hats off to you, because I look at likes of this and loads of other artists, loads in UK as well, and I look at the colour portraits and I just think, fucking hell, where would I start? You know what I mean?
And I really am.
What sort of time scale did that take?
That took about 8 hours.
Just solid straight through?
We went straight through. I used a very broken background on this one. Even the art itself, like it's feathering away.
See, I just think for me personally, black and grey, I love doing black and grey portraits. It's therapeutic.
Yeah.
It's almost like you can zone out.
Black and grey will.
But how the fuck do you zone out and you've got to be constantly thinking what colours work with it, or I'm going to have to add that. It's like 8 hours of being fully focused and tuned in, do you get what I mean? Whereas black and grey, it's more laid back, it's just different tonal values and creating depth with darker areas, lighter areas, and that contrast, whereas colour, it's a constant thinking.
What I did with this one, I actually loaded it into Photoshop, which I do mainly with my colour anyway. And I used a paintbrush tool, and I made a circle so your brush size were bigger. And off the photograph itself, so I made 2 photographs, running down one side, I picked the flesh tones. So what I did, I actually drew over the top You know, Crichton at a Red Dwarf.
Picked your values out on Photoshop first, and I'd like a palette.
I made my own palette. If I didn't have them colours, I actually changed the palette on Photoshop to fit my colours.
Right, yeah.
I never did it the other way around and mixed my colours to fit I did it the other way around.
So I actually, that method that you've just mentioned,
Yeah.
I went on a digital painting course.
All right, yeah.
And they did that exact thing.
Yeah.
Pick your photo. So skin, you'd have picked the darker areas in creases down one side.
Yeah.
And pick maybe 5 or 6 of the different values.
Yeah.
You can get every value from that then, because you can mix them.
You can, yeah. It's
Well,
not
as
as
long
much washing out in your cup either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can mingle between them, but I never actually thought of pre-doing that
Yeah.
before a tattoo.
There's
And then
another
you can basically just mimic the screen, can't you? It's a good way of doing it.
The other thing what I do is is Crichton, like I was saying out of Red Dwarf, is more blocky. So on a photograph, it's sometimes hard to distinguish where your shapes are. So what I did was I made them into very understandable. That colour is that block, and that colour is that block, and so it's very squared off. And all I had to do then is think, right, if I cut it short by so much, then they're my blending areas. You understand?
So basically, break it down into shapes.
Yeah, it will break
Block your shapes in.
Breaking Bad.
Block your shapes in, and then basically just smooth them together.
Yeah,
to create that softer.
Really, I was using more my mid-tone first, pulling my dark into my mid-tone and the other way. And same again, not really using a white, I used an ivory to hold up better.
What's that on all the highlights? So even like round glasses, because
yeah, it's an
bearing
ivory.
in mind, just so people know, we're saying, or Kelvin's saying, just by adding, rather than white, if you just put in that tiny bit of yellow or make it slightly ivory, like to me, visually it still looks white, doesn't it? You're just doing that just so it holds better.
Yeah.
It's like all the highlights around glasses, little highlights in pupils, and then little speckles that you got right in centre of eye. And on bridge at nose look, and down sides. To look at it, it just looks white, doesn't it?
It does look, it's not. It's definitely not.
So it's just to make it hold better.
White would be too in your face. It'd ruin you know what I said about the relationship of features. I mean, you look at that, you can tell the eyes are sat behind the glasses. You know, you can tell the eyes are sat on the nose and the nose is peeking forwards. This is why I did the beard on the under part, why I actually tattooed into a colour value, because I knew it would reduce the intensity of the black and it would make it recede, it would pull it under. That's why I did it that way. Very interesting piece. I do often share it. I enjoyed doing it. And to be honest with you, it didn't hold 100%. I got into this, I'm going to follow Americans, I'm going to do it their way, I'm going to do it this way and that way. But I'm honest about it, you know, you learn from your mistakes. That's 9 years ago. So we're at that level 9 years ago, doing it like that. When people were probably just thinking, shall I start doing colour?
Just after I'd started.
Yeah.
So next one is the Tyson.
Tyson Old Perfect. He's a good pal of mine. My mate's a boxer and also a champion boxer. I'm not going to mention his name, it'll kill me. But it's that fantastic for this. Same thing again. Very basic. This time I used, believe it or not, a lot more flesh in it than I would a brown. And I used the brown. So I did a lot of grey wash on this first, and I tattooed into the grey wash.
What was that, just for depth?
Yeah, and also to stain and make like a mucky sort of look. And I put me.
Quick question I've got. It almost looks like you've lined round gloves. What reasoning for that? Just to make it pop?
It's lined, but it's lined with a round shader, which I know would fade over
Softer,
time.
yeah.
I'd never lined with a liner. So when people look at my work and they go, he's lined his eyes, he's lined his gloves. No, that faded away and made more of it folded in together, if you get what I mean.
So this is what I actually, one of the points that I try and get across in course. not necessarily a line and needle, but you can create a line, use a round shader,
Yeah.
and on the day it virtually looks the same.
Yeah.
But it's like it'll heal
It's more fuzzy.
as a blurred line almost. So it's that softer feel.
Yeah.
So if you want to put an edge in, but you don't quite want it as crisp,
Right.
you can still line it. Just use a round shader, exact same. It's easy to show on a screen because you can just use like an airbrush rather than a pen.
Did you say you prefer magnums for?
I use mags for everything.
Right.
So if I were doing a portrait, I'd use like
Sorry,
you're all right. I'd use typically a tight 3 liner to get into all small areas, and a 15 curve bug pin mag. That's it.
Okay.
Just them 2 needles.
What I do on portraits to get that, some that can look flat or something can look very rounded. And the reason I use 5, 7s or 9s round shaders is because, you know when I said tattooing into a wet surface can blur it.
Yeah.
Now, if I use everything on a magnum and get the shape of the face, I will then very gently etch away with a round shader, giving it a strong outline. It's not an outline, because over a period of time it starts to stain into it.
Yeah.
So it brings the stain in and gives you more of a feel of being able to tuck your hand behind the portrait.
Just to emphasise the darker areas.
To emphasise the depth. So when I was talking about relationships or features, it's got to be very, very believable if you're doing realism. It's like the nose in this one, and this one actually, I did it differently because the nose is downwards. You know when I said about relationship to features? Instead of looking to the side and your nose being stuck out here and your eyes being back, most tattooists put so much emphasis on the eyes that the eyes are too far forward when the nose should sit forward, like on the lion. Well, on this one, because he's got his head down, I used the round shader on his nose, and I used more of a round shader liner on the eyes to sit the eyes forward. Because really, if he's downwards, his nose would be downwards, and his eyes would be more forwards. So I'll bring his eyes forwards.
Same again with whites on this, because obviously he's dripping with sweat on this picture, isn't he?
This is actually white.
This is white.
Yeah, and it's pushed into, it was done last. So it'll put into the skin with a...
so in essence then, the healed shot of that, then whites would be...
like a creamy brown.
Less.
Naples,
they'd be less prominent, wouldn't they?
Yeah, in art it's Naples yellow, which is similar to an ivory, but it's not quite. It's more of a skin volume. What I did was I used a medium taper, but the SFP was longer, which is soldered from point. So the point of your needle to where your solder starts, it was more set backwards, so it was more able to open up a little bit more. Yeah. People often call needles tights.
And I know a lot of older tattoo artists, sometimes they used to heat the needles up slightly
to open it up.
Just to open it up that little bit, wouldn't it?
You can actually make them so they're either, your average on a shader or a round shader or any shader magnums is 10 millimeters. And I'd say your average on a liner is probably between a 3 and a 5 millimeters.
One of the things that I like about this is obviously hair. Now you've done that, you've created like a background tone to it, haven't you, first? And then gone in to create all them little bits. What needle did you use for that round shader?
I used a round shader, and all I did was figure eights.
Fucking hell.
Figure eights, that's all I did.
Where did you learn the figure eight technique? What gave you that method?
Well, I used to draw a lot, and I was thinking about...
Airbrush? Did you?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
So I actually teach this on my course.
Right.
The figure of eight technique.
Yeah.
And then for dot works, I use the star method. And it's something that I learned on an airbrushing course. But it's the first time that I've ever heard another tattoo artist.
Is it really?
Yeah, use the figure of eight
It's just figure
technique.
eights. All I do
It's just easy in the interloop.
Yeah.
And it creates that texture, doesn't it?
I use that with a black, then I use clay grey with a magnum, and a bit of, it was clay grey, and all I did was, I had 2 different clay greys, one that I'd added black to, and one normal clay grey. I used them again, and all I did was, I didn't patch
Which way round did you go though? So
I did the figure 8s first to make them stand out.
Yeah,
And then I went over the top, But
so in theory, like more towards the sides,
Yep.
where you'd want that texture, the detail to be less prominent because it's towards side, it'd be more fuzzy looking, wouldn't it?
So on this
Did
side
you then do
here,
it the other way around?
I did it the other way around,
Yeah.
So I put my clay grey in as a solid,
First.
then figure 8 over the top with my black,
Yeah. I hope you guys are understanding that principle because that's a really good point. So in the middle, obviously that's closer to focal point.
I want to tattoo Tyson again.
Fuck it, I'll have it on my leg. Where he wanted the hair details to be more prominent and like more visual, he put them in first, so they hold the detail more, and then he put the greys, laid that over the top, so obviously they're sat behind, but the detail holds better in the curly hair. Towards side where it's more distorted looking, he then reversed the process, put the grey tones in first, and then the figure of 8s over the top, so they blur out more.
You lose information then.
Yeah.
And then it starts to curve, because you're losing information, it's curving away also. So really, the reason I enjoyed that so much, 1, fantastic leather war tattoo, and sat perfect. 2, I like my boxing. I'm crap at it. Number 2 really is, it's an iconic picture, it's an iconic man to do. From an ego point of view, got me a lot of likes on Facebook.
Yeah.
Don't know why I kept looking at my phone, because it didn't make me any better. And it healed fantastic because it's more basic than what people think. I was only using like 3 layers or 3 passes per and that's what I learned from me. When I first started doing colour realism, I thought you had to do this bit and this bit and that bit, and I must have been putting 8 passes, 9 passes in, and getting big crusty scabs on them and stuff. And as of late, obviously, over years, not getting no scabbing, what have you, using dermalisers and stuff like that, your second skins and reputable aftercare products.
The dermalised wrap,
Yeah.
I've had mixed reviews with that. So I say, look, it's difference between somebody that's bothered about their aftercare and not.
Yeah.
Most will just wrap it in cling film, £1 a roll of that dermalised. It's expensive, so a lot of artists avoid using it because it cost. Obviously, you don't pass it on to the customer. Or I've known some artists charge if they want that wrap on, which I think's wrong. It's part of the tattoo. It's down to artists to give best aftercare. But I've had some people, like, towards the outer edges of the sheets, it just irritates the skin within 24 hours.
And give them blisters and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I put it on one of my tattoos, and not even nowhere near the tattoo, the corner of the wrap.
I've done it.
I got like a red thing, and it fucking took months and months to go.
Yeah.
I ended up with like a square frame around my tattoo, up to right fucking pillar.
I can tell you on these, on the Breaking Bad and on the Tyson, I incorporated a lot of round shaders in that, which is different probably to the next ones we're going to move on to.
Well, we're going to move on now to Lord of the Rings one. Now, out of them all, not my favourite piece as in the actual...
Is it more pleasing to your eye?
Yeah.
Do you want me to tell you why?
It's the contrast between darks and lights.
Right.
It just pops, and the fact that you've got a focal point at bottom and top with that darkness in middle.
Yeah.
It creates that depth.
I used a very... This is probably why it appeals to you, and you can see it without, really thinking about it. I use predominantly magnums. So using predominantly magnums is giving you a softer look.
Yeah.
The other two are more sharper, in-your-face type of look. This is more of a softer...
This, to me, if it were on paper, this is more of like a charcoal.
Yeah, you get a charcoal sort of look.
Yeah.
That pastel-y sort.
Yeah, pastel look.
So colours used in this is the skin tone set. I use the clay grey, I used black, so you can see that I've put the black in first. Kept away from the fringe till almost the last.
But again, even that fringe. So typically people will do hair, magnum on side, trying to get each strand in. You've not done that.
No, I've kept it simple.
You've kept it so we look at that picture and it looks like hair, but you can't see any individual strands. Well, apart from odd couple where you put them in dark and at top.
What I've done.
So you've used your mag, not sideways, but front on, to give that smoothness, haven't you?
That is a very minimal point in that area. From what I remember doing it, because it were a full leg, so the eyelashes were done first with a liner.
See, even that's soft lines, isn't it?
Yeah.
I would have guessed that you'd just use mag on its side for that.
No, I did it that way, and then a couple of lines in the air. But what I did then was put just one basic skin value into the top of the head, and then I brushed the black into that. That's how I got the soft hair. So
so that's actually overlaid into
into the colour.
Skin tone.
Knowing that it would never ever be a black. It would be an offset or so it would look blurred and smooth. The ring itself I put on second. So I was getting trolled. I don't know why they do it, because I can't read Elvish. They said you got the ring wrong. I thought, well, there's more than one ring. But I didn't put. I just put underneath. They got ring wrong. I just put back. Well, I don't read Elvish, so I have no idea.
There's always something. I find no matter what you do, especially if it's something that like Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Do anything Harry Potter. There's always one fan that says that's wrong. Actually, it was this.
His twig slightly bent wrong.
Yeah,
right?
Lord of the Rings, anything along them sides where you get like huge advocates at films and program series, whatever you want to call them.
There's a lot of detail that I could go into on needles used, movements and stuff like that. But
one of the things that I like,
yeah,
and I think why I'm drawn to it, the negatives in that ring. So the fucking time that it will have took to allow that negative space for the wording around that ring, and the intricacy, getting all them little dark values to create that emptiness is fucking so time consuming. How long did this one take? Obviously the rest of it would have been a lot quicker for you just whacking it in with a mag, but that ring must have took some time.
4.5 hours. And the ring took about an hour and a half.
What, that quick?
Yeah.
Fucking hell, you've flown through that then.
It wasn't my leg. It's a shame really, I did mention to you earlier, didn't I, that we were one more tattoo off for completing that full leg.
Yeah, this.
And he went to Australia, and such a lovely kid, but...
So was this the last piece that you got done on him, or did you
I did a golem on inside of his kneecap, and then the last tattoo to happen was, because on his kneecap, he's actually got the guy with the
Gandalf, is it?
No, the guy with the bad guy in it, I don't know his name, Solomon or whatever he's called, and the red flames coming off with eye behind. So
that's the old wizard bloke, isn't it?
I think
and
it was
then
the guy
tower with eye in middle.
It's the guy who were after.
I've only ever watched it once, so I'm fucking guessing here.
But back at leg were in where Frodo Baggins and that's from, where he's opening door, and you could see through to kneecap and see from that point of view as well. And that was the last bit I was going to put on him, and I begged him, I says, "Come in, mate, it's for me portfolio." He said, "I just think you were thinking, nah, I've been through enough pain."
Yeah, I really like that. Next one, Planet of Apes is this?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
The amount of detail. This, although there's a lot more detail in it, it's almost like, what's the best way to describe it? Do you know when you've got a picture and then you use these fucking editors and you almost give it like a filmic look, where it's got like a mask of at top?
Yeah.
Well, that intentional. Because that's what I see when I see that.
I just went full painting on it.
Yeah, like a
Yeah, painting.
like film it, like
As I said to you, I don't edit, I don't mess about. I'm not. If people want to do it, that's up to them. I like it even when I like people to see what they're really going to get, you know. Especially at the bottom part of the tattoo. 1 second. If you see at the bottom part of the tattoo, where he's got the gun holding it there, you can see where I know that I'm struggling to get that detail in. So I stopped there. Because it was a continuous art piece anyway. I could have pulled something in from the other side that were flat, that would stop any more damage.
See, this is a point that I like to make, and I've said it on tons of videos. I'm not going to say name, but there's an artist in York.
Okay.
He's fucking unreal at his work.
Yeah.
But for me, so sometimes he'll then upload a picture,
Yeah.
and then 6 months, a year later, he'll add on to that tattoo. But the picture that he puts on, you can see the new piece, and then you can see the piece that were a year old.
Right.
And I just think he puts too much detail in.
You can.
That you're not gonna. It's pointless. It looks good for the photo on the day.
Yeah.
But it's a complete waste of time because it's just gonna spread under the skin because the details are too close together. So I think and I say this in my course constantly. There's small details that's too much and pointless putting in. So just lose them because it's just going to ruin it.
Yeah, they're not going to hold.
And it's understanding that fine line in the between wanting something to be detailed, and then going too far and potentially ruining tattoo. But I like how you've obviously that horse and ape. You've got a load of detail in that, and then you've blurred the background out.
Yeah.
To make it look, to give that, this is closer than that. I like that.
He's the lad who I've tattooed it on. He's had a lot of work off me, and he's one of them pale skin lads, young lad, looks after himself. You
Perfect customer.
You know, if you say
Looks after the skin.
If you have any problems with you, then contact me. You know, we've spent a lot of time on your arm. It's an area that's going to brush against your fabric on your clothes, and you know, he's contact me straight away. You know, like I said, everyone's had a bad deal. Learn from your mistakes.
I've had my legs done, and it's been, well, you know what weather's been like. It's been fucking freezing.
Mate,
Everybody's been looking at me like I'm bonkers, pissing it down the other day, freezing
shorts
cold.
on.
I'm walking about in shorts. Why have you got shorts on? Because I don't want anything touching my leg whilst it's healing.
Yeah.
Even clothes, because detergents, whatever you wash your stuff in, it can all irritate you. I'd rather it just be skin and air. That's it.
Yeah.
So
It's
I'm
like
not mental. I just want to look after my stuff.
I had somebody come back, a truck driver, I had it inside of his arm. He's trying to take his coat off, and he got fur on inside of his jacket. So I said, don't take the wrap off, please, will you, for at least 1 or 2 days. Took it off within a few hours. Arm straightened his sleeve off to work, and all the fur had gone into it.
Stuck to it, and then it had fucking dried with all fur.
I've worked at studios, and I've looked at their out-of-date inks, and I thought, this is abroad, I thought, oh man, you've got to be kidding me.
I've only ever had one person getting an infection.
Okay.
And they walked into the shop, and I looked at it, and it looked like fucking gangrene or something.
It can eat itself away.
And I ended up saying to him, look, you need to go to A&E for that.
Antibiotics straight away.
Well, they put him on whatever, and nurse cleaned it all and pulled a dog hair out at tattoo.
Just one dog hair?
Just one dog hair. And she obviously
that
explained
tells
it.
you what's what then.
She explained it to him, and then he come back in to basically like a catch up and tell me what issue was. And he says, yeah, they pulled a dog hair out and the amount of bacteria. So from that day forward, I used to always ask customers, or if I knew that they had a dog, I'd just say, look, whatever you do, do not let fucking dog hairs get near that. Because the amount of bacteria on a dog, well, they're rolling dog shit in a lot, don't they?
I think some of them have, old customers have. A big valid point on stuff like that is the pre-clean. You know, after you've shaved them, I've not really seen people really give that a good clean.
So I always clean it with alcohol before anything, mate.
Get a good clean.
Just to Mainly to get rid of any oils from skin before I put stencil on.
Yeah. Well, you've got diseases that live on your skin, that flesh-eating bugs like streptococcal. It's on your hair, you know. That's why you get strepsils. It starts off a sore throat, then you get quinzies, and that can happen to your tattoo. This one here, it's aggressive on one side and mild on the other, almost in the face itself.
Yeah, left to
So I
right.
tend to use a lot more reds for that danger look, and then a more subtle.
I think you've done the same as well. I don't know whether it were a difference in needles.
Yeah.
I'm just hazarding a guess here.
Yeah,
I'm gonna guess, but the left-hand side
yeah,
looks sharper. It looks like you put the details in first.
yeah.
The right-hand side, it looks softer. It's almost like it blurs out from left to right.
Yeah,
Am I right?
Perfect.
That's what I'm seeing.
100% right.
Yeah. It's almost like your focus is on that left-hand side. That's the direction that they're looking. That's your focal area.
So if you look at
But you blurred it purposely and in technique as well.
the left-hand side is done very
Crisp. Yeah.
so almost like robotically sharp, strong.
Like even the depth of the, if you zoom, even the nostril look at the left one compared
Yeah, so
to
it's
right.
a lot stronger. It's
The
all done
creases
purposely, yeah.
on left compared to right. And then same with eye, apart from just the lines around eyes.
That was the hardest part of this tattoo, is to make them look like there was still depth behind that nostril, behind the nasal passage. That was the hardest point, to keep it sat back, even though the colours they used, the needles they used, would naturally bring it forward. But I kept it back.
But yeah. So they're the 5 tattoos. Like I say, absolutely amazing at what you do, mate. And hopefully people watching. I know I'm looking at that now just from some tips that you've said, and
Yeah.
I'm spotting what you've said.
Yeah.
So hopefully viewers will look at that and apply it into the next tattoo. Just quickly, without giving a fucking full course on it,
Right.
if you were to pick just a few bits of advice, like I say, predominantly people watching this, they're wanting to become tattoo artists. They might have done course, they might have had a few months as apprenticeship.
Yep.
If there were a couple of pieces of advice that you wish somebody had said to you when you were first starting out, what would that be?
Don't do it.
We're saturated. Fuck
It was
off.
saturated. Now is don't let it. Is that the camera there?
Yes, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, either or.
and
I'll talk to you then, I'm more comfortable. Is don't let ego stop you taking advice and on board information. Seek as much information on the aspects of hygiene, why things do this, do that. Courses like yourself, legit courses. I've seen your work. You know what I mean. You're not somebody who's from a back street. You're hitting it from a professional level. Is talk to people from a professional level. If they're telling you to do something and advising you, they're not advising you to make a mistake. They're advising you to benefit you. If you're going to do it from your kitchen, stay away from it. You know, that's where I started, but they want as much available things back then.
Just on that note,
Yeah,
you're self-taught.
self-taught, yeah.
So there's that many people. I've had hundreds, if not thousands, of tattoo artists out there, and all you guys will have seen them and read them or on my YouTube. The only way to get into the tattoo industry is through a traditional apprenticeship. I was self-taught. I've made millions from this game. Kelvin, self-taught, big name in industry, well known, been doing it absolutely years.
Do a lot of judging now.
There's loads of world famous artists that took this exact same path. So for all those that feel intimidated or put off even because they've read comments that are just helping my engagement, or listen to other artists saying, look, if you want to become a tattoo artist, the only or the correct way to get into industry is through years of slave labour for free. It can't be, don't get me wrong, if you find a really good apprenticeship and you're in a good shop and that suits you, fair enough, that's perfect. But there is alternative ways for those that it's just not doable for. And it's a strong point. I've had that many comments saying, you can't learn like that, you can't. I think, well, that's how I did it.
I've seen some people running courses and they say, if you pay me £2,000, I can learn you how to tattoo in 5 days.
Oh.
I want to know who's learning them because I could do with some teaching.
Mate, I've had, so one of my students, she's done my course, she's got her own shop now.
Yeah.
Doing absolutely amazing. But before taking my course,
Yeah.
I can't remember whether she said it was a 10-day course or a 2-week course. And she paid virtually double what it cost for my course.
Yeah.
But it were in person. It was like a 2-week apprenticeship, basically.
Yeah.
And she learnt more in the first couple of weeks of my course than what she paid double for. And it, although at times she didn't realise it was a waste of money, she then, speaking to her after she'd done my course, she said, I've wasted that much money. You cannot learn something that requires hours and hours and hours of practice in a short time frame. It's just impossible. You can learn to line, but then it takes hours and hours and hours to perfect them lines or to fully understand the principles that you're applying. You can't just learn it in a day.
I was very, very lucky, me. And I mean very lucky. It couldn't have happened to a more horrible person. I think I would just deserve some good parts in my life, and that is I got to work alongside the old school of tattooing, so people have been in the game 40 years plus, and the advice they gave me I'll never forget. That's making inks, needles, machines, the works, you know, telling me what will never be, you know, what does work is your fundamentals, definitely. Understand your fundamentals, you can't go wrong.
And I think world level artists, they don't know any secrets. There's no magic fucking techniques, is there?
No, not
It's
really.
just they're really good at the basics to a level that makes them look like it's not basic. Like boxing.
Yeah.
Once you can use 2 arms, everybody can jab, cross, uppercut, hook. You just drill it that much and get that good at them particular skills,
Yeah.
then you're world level, aren't you?
The body and the brain becomes its function. So to be an 100-metre runner, you don't swim 100 metres.
Yeah.
You know, you only get good at what you're actually practicing.
And lastly,
Yeah.
I want to finish off with just a couple of examples of your worst experience. I've had, I'm sure you've got fucking 10 times as many as me, but I've had some nuggets in shop. Just people that don't listen. What's been your worst, off top of your head, experience?
From mine or theirs?
Either. One of each. And have you ever done a tattoo wrong?
Oh, yeah.
No, to the point where you've not been able to fix it. It's wrong.
I'm going to start with that one. So, I've always gone by, you know, what I was taught at school. I before E, except after C. And that's how I got to learn my English.
So your spelling's wank. My spelling's terrible.
Yeah, and now...
I put the responsibility to the customer. Look, check if it's spelt wrong, it's your fault.
Well, I actually get them to write it down or type it into that computer. I'm not getting into it. And as I'm tattooing this little verse on this lad, I says, you know, there has been one or twice that they've actually written their own name down wrong or somebody else's name. And I've looked at his tattoo and I've spelt something wrong. As I was telling him about it, do you know what I mean? I thought, you know, you just like, you feel he's in
And fucking swallow me up.
and
You don't
guns
want to
get more
admit it.
tucked in, like, and you're like, your sweat starts to profuse, and he like looked at me and went, you spelt it wrong, haven't you? I went, yeah. So that's what I said. I said, I'll tell you what, think of something that you like, I'll cover it up and I'll put your verse back on. So I ended up putting him I think it was a pamphlet, nice and dark. And then I put the script underneath. He says,
You get it right second time
I
round.
did, yeah, mate.
You're only an idiot
Yeah, I like.
if you don't learn, innit?
Another one, I was checking blue ink up. Don't ask me why I did this. Because I usually check every couple of days, make sure that, it's run through correctly. It's not drying up in bottom or what have you. So, but it was sunny. And it'd been sunny, it was just warm. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but your inks and what they're mixed with evaporates.
If you've not shut that lid 100%, your inks are fucked, aren't they?
Yeah, it's same when they're in your pots. So especially acrylic-based ink like Eternal and stuff like that, they tend to get a skin on them. Yeah. Well, it happened inside the nozzle, so I'm with this blue ink and I'm pumping it up like I don't know, some sort of fitness thing. And I'm looking.
You were going to say something else
for
then,
my
weren't you?
stencil, and I've unclipped it because I've got tissue over the top, and I've undone the top, and I thought, oh, it's come out, and then it dawned on me, my customers sat in front of me, right. And do you know when you're like,
fucking Smurf?
because I heard, right, I'm like, shit. Do you know what I mean? I went there, look around, and I look around, and this. You're not supposed to laugh in them situations, but because he got blue, like it was just dripping off his face. I says, "How much for your clothes?" He told me. I said, "Well, I'll sort your clothes out, mate. Your tattoo's free." And he was just staring at me, and I'm like, so he ended up going home. He got like this blue smear, smeary grey in his hair. You were all over, it's all over walls. I've done stuff like that, loads of stuff.
Did
like
they
that.
see it funny side?
No. I did.
I'd have been
Because afterwards, I honestly, I panicked. I was checking a lot. You get in a roller coaster and you get that instant.
Yeah.
You think, oh, your palms are sweaty. So I said, what do you do for a living? And it couldn't have happened to anybody else but me. Second name Slack. It can't happen to anybody else. So he says,
is that you get out of jail card?
It has to be.
If you ever do a fuck up, well, surname.
Slack, you know what I mean? So he says, when doormen are having problems, I run a security firm, where will you go and take over? You can't get your breath, and I'm like, that's when I said, how much for your clothes? Like, I'll pay for them and I'll give you free.
Having a fucking bunch of blokes turning up at shop.
I've had somebody pass out, wake up and attack me. Thought they were in a fight, and I'm having to pin them down. Because I'm pinning them down and it's making them worse. Because it's disoriented.
I've had it once where the customers passed out, but then started swallowing the tongue.
Oh, that guggling.
Yeah, but bad.
Yeah.
Most people do that when they pass out, don't they? Like
Get
gargle
a
on the
couple
tongue.
of jolts and. Yeah.
But this, it was as if it were fucking lodged in his. I thought, he's going to choke to death here. And I know you shouldn't, but I ended up pinning his mouth up and shoving my
just a scoop
fingers straight to the back of his throat and pulling his tongue down, just so he could get air in.
It's scary, isn't it? Yeah.
I felt like saying, "Wake up and breathe through your nose, you thick twat." But yeah, it was a panic. Usually, I just sit there and wait until they come round, as long as they're not choking, or if they're starting to shake, I'll lay them on the side, recovery position like you're supposed to. But he was scary. I thought he was going to die.
I've had that done to me. I really have that done to me, and it was a bad one and all. I wasn't actually tattooing the person. I'm facing the client who's being tattooed, but I've been tattooed at my studio by somebody else. But she put her head down. But he's continuing tattooing. Now, I always talk to my clientele to keep that regulation of, you naturally take a breath unless you're me while you're talking.
Yeah. Yeah, see, that's one of the big things a lot. Hold the breath.
It's core, innit?
Yeah. Breathing is, as daft as it sounds, it's an important thing, isn't it?
A lot of people don't know this, but I've said this before to a lot of people, is that we walk heel first. We're designed to do that. So that's a dorsiflexion, and that's a plantarflexion. So as we walk from heel to toe, it actually opens a valve up in your heel. So as the blood goes down, you push on your heel, and when you go into a plantarflexion, it pushes blood back up. So if you're feeling faint or anything, just get to move regulate, and get talking to him. Well, anyway, she's passed out, this woman, and I just took the lad who was working with me, was she eating anything and all that? I told you not to allow people to eat in station because of that for one, and two, hygiene. I'm not sure. I think she had chewing gum. I said, did she have chewing gum or a boiled sweet? Because there's a boiled pack of sweets here. So I think she had a boiled sweet. Now I'm thinking, oh no, you know what I mean? This woman, she ain't coming round, she's going blue. Right? And he says, well, I'm just going to nip out for a fag. I says, you're not helping me, you know what I mean?
Fucking
I
leaving
says,
the
get the
wheel.
medical box. Right? He said, what are you going to do? I said, she ain't round soon. You're going to have to phone an ambulance. I'm going to have to do a tracheotomy. He says, I can't watch that. I says, you're doing it, not me. So he's like, is it like a cake cutter? What? But it's things like that, you know, you've got to learn your medical as well. It's all right joking, I mean, afterwards...
So here in UK, there's not actually any rules for that. Luckily, I did all mine like that in military.
Did you?
Yeah, well, you've got to fucking...
I'm a personal
field
trainer,
medical,
so I did
aren't
mine
you?
through that, and I did medical as well. So.
But really, it's a scary thought, isn't it?
Yeah, that they could die on you.
No, the fact that you don't have to actually have any medical training
In some
for worst
countries,
case
overseas,
scenarios.
you know, in Europe, in some countries, their hygiene levels are a lot lower. A lot lower.
What, even in the UK? It's fucking non-existent here, though, isn't it?
You can just set a tattoo shop up there. I don't know how it runs, but they just stick up anyway. It's a lot lower. And that's why I have product data sheets and product data forms. So if an ambulance has to come for any reason whatsoever, that's the inks that I've used. There you go. Take them away, have a look at the product.
Like a
could
cost
have had,
list, isn't it?
Yeah, they could have had an anaphylactic shock against any inks or like that. And that's the reason I do it.
Well, on that note, Kelvin,
Thank you very much, man.
it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you guys enjoyed it and get as much value as you possibly can. And no doubt we'll be doing stuff in future, mate.
I'm still hiding behind
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.